Filming on this is so difficult. It falls down so many times and I can't stop it. Hello everyone, it's me, Anthony, and welcome to today's video. I'm your favorite college student slash acting coach, and I'm here to give you some fun, helpful acting tips. Woohoo! Okay, so today I very much wanted to focus on the character development side of performing a monologue. So I know a lot of times, this happens more with songs, but a lot of times you just sing the song, you don't necessarily act it. So when we have a monologue, we really want to understand the character, so we're not coming across to the audience as ourselves. We're coming across as that character, and they really want to feel the emotions of the character. They want it to be believable. That's how you get maximum enjoyment of a performance. So today we're actually going to focus on the monologue that we broke down memorization-wise last week. Instead, we're going to break it down character-wise, performance-wise, different acting tips, and different techniques we can use to get into character. Okay, so let's get started. Okay, so when I was in high school, my director would actually send us character worksheets in order to help us break down and analyze our characters based on traits that weren't necessarily predetermined by the script. Because when you read the script, it might tell you important things like where the character lives, what time the show takes place, and with that information, you can kind of create the character somewhat, but you really want to break down and get to know how your character thinks. So I'm gonna read off some things that you guys can actually write down to help you remember, or just think it out. If you have a character that you want to work on right now, I recommend pausing this video every time I say something and just thinking out loud what this category makes you think of in relation to your character. So I'm just gonna read them out. Name, age, occupation, public life, private life, religion, relationships, political views, assets, flaws, philosophical views. Okay, so those are some categories that'll help you think a little more in depth about a character. Now I'm gonna pose some questions that can help you think of what direction you want to take that character. So, what is your biggest obstacle? What is your objective? Then, do you achieve your objective? What prevents you from achieving your objective? Once we analyze the show and what takes place in the show, then we can know what that character is gonna do, what that character is gonna emotionalize leading up to this moment, during this moment, and after this moment. How are you different from the start of the show to the end of the show? This one's a very important question because it shows your character development. Of course, does something happen to your character that triggers a personality change? Do they realize something and do they grow because of that? Okay, so I'm actually gonna take some of those helpful tips I just gave and apply them to the monologue and the character that I was working on last time, so you can see me do a little of what I do to get into character, and maybe it'll help you guys out. So, first up, so the monologue I chose from Seymour in Little Shop of Horrors is actually towards the beginning of the show. It's when we first meet Audrey 2. Seymour doesn't yet know that Audrey 2 is somewhat of a special plan, and it's when Seymour has a crush on Audrey, the actual Audrey, but doesn't get the girl yet. Their feelings are still friends, if that makes sense. Okay, so one of the questions I posed was, what is your biggest obstacle? And I think Seymour actually tackles a couple obstacles throughout the show that change as the show keeps moving, and they tend to get bigger and bigger to the point that he can't handle it anymore, which is what happens at the end, which I won't spoil. But I think the biggest obstacle is him having to face Audrey 2, having to encounter the plant. Again, I don't want to spoil too much for you guys, but I think it's important to note that the obstacles progress as the show goes on. They get larger and larger. So towards the beginning, where this monologue takes place, he doesn't have too many obstacles. Of course, he's lived a rough life. He doesn't have too much. He isn't treated too well by Mr. Mushnick, right? Who is his father figure, not his actual father, his father figure. And yeah, he has to deal with that, which is why he's so happy that he found this special plant, because it's a breed he's never seen before. And he's really expressing that in this monologue. As I was talking it out, something I realized is connecting an emotion with a monologue goes a long way, because you can have a monologue like this with him explaining how he got the plant and him being really mad about it, really frustrated, because so he ends it with for $1.95. Maybe that's not a good deal. Maybe that's a bad deal. That's gonna change the whole presentation of the monologue, if you will. So you're gonna want to associate what emotion goes with the monologue, and it might be more specific than happy. It might be accomplished. It might be satisfaction. It might just be content. It might be on a lower scale, you know? So, or excitement could be on a larger scale. So play with that. Maybe read it a couple of different ways and see which way connects with you. Now, another important thing when you're playing a character is speech. You really need to focus on, is this person lower class and is going to speak in a different way than someone who is going to present themselves with more power, and how do they speak? So this is where your research has to come in, and you really want to not only look at past shows, like older productions of this show, but also look at other things that were produced in the time that this was written or in the time that this takes place, so you can know how people acted, how people spoke. Dialect is important in regards to accents. Now, you might have noticed I have a pretty much New York, Staten Island accent. It pops out sometimes. It's where I'm from. So that being said, if I'm playing a character that doesn't take place in Staten Island, I'm gonna want to emphasize my words in a more neutral tone of voice. Now, lastly, I wanted to close with something that my vocal teacher in high school used to always tell me when performing songs, and I think this applies to monologues too. Make active choices. Make choices that are different, that'll make you stand out in an audition or just in a performance in general. You want your performance to be something memorable to the audience. And that being said, maybe in a certain line you can do something funny, an aspect of physical comedy, or maybe in a certain line you can emphasize it in a way that makes that word seem important. I'm gonna give you guys an example. He sometimes sells me weird and exotic cuttings, because he knows, you see, that weird plants are my hobby. He sometimes sells me weird and exotic cuttings, because he knows, you see, that strange plants are my hobby. Okay, so I just wanted to do that line different ways, but if you're actually doing this in a show and it's set to the music, be sure to listen to the music. You don't want to go off beat. But did you see how that line kind of changes from the way you say it, the way you inflect certain words, from the way you add more comedic gestures to it? So that's why it shouldn't be one and done when you're working a monologue. You should make different changes, try different things. Be an actor. Okay, so there you have it. That's all I have for you guys today. I had a lot of fun doing this. I hope you had a lot of fun watching this. If you have any suggestions for what you want to see me do next, be sure to comment them down below, or you can DM my performance Instagram account. I'm active on there. I would love to hear all of your questions. And who knows, maybe just saying something will inspire what I will do next. So please reach out to me. Stay active, stay productive, stay theatrical, and keep doing things that keep you happy and keep you alive. Interpret that any way you want to. Have a good one, you guys. This was a lot of fun. Bye.